What are your concerns regarding this PNM party electoral process, especially this upcoming internal election?
Yes, and that's a concern that a lot of people share. I think I'm hopefully an open letter, which I wrote to the Anthony Roberts, who I think is in charge of the whole process. And I expect it will be published in the papers and otherwise being on Facebook. So what was the concern is a time honored. We have always done 1 day of elections and then you'd count and that's it. That's how general elections are conducted in our country, where hundreds of thousands of people are involved in the voting process, and it's completed in 1 day, and the counting is done that same night, early into the morning. And I think the rationale would be that you do not want to leave any space for any ill-intentioned person to tamper or in any way impact in a negative way the outcome, the real outcome of the election results. So what we really have, as someone pointed out to me, yes, you have voting on the 27th, I think 27th, 20th consecutively, but then you have a final day of voting on the 4th of December. So what you really have done is extended it from 1 day to 9 days. And what is, yeah, that's the effect of it because, and then in that period of time, which is, I expect, one of the reasons that we do it 1 day and we take the boxes safely into custody and all that goes with it, and you make sure they're representatives. But when it's a national election, but you make sure their representatives oversee the counting, what you're doing is creating an opportunity, creating a vacuum for persons to be able to, I would say, tamper and with those boxes. Now, you could tell me that won't happen, but we have to be realistic. We have to understand why create an unnecessary risk? Why put an unnecessary risk in out there? I mean, if hundreds of thousands of people can do it in 1 day, certainly the few thousand that make up the PNM registered voters and those who want to vote in their various constituency, the exercise can be completed in 1 day as it has always been. So that must raise eyebrows and give you a sense of unease. And I don't think any proper, any acceptable explanation has been given for taking this approach. It only seems to me to give opportunity for wrongdoing. And secondly, then when you do this, then the safeguarding of those boxes. Remember, this is not the independent body undertaking this as the EBC does. This is the party, and it's the party machinery that is doing this. So what are the safeguards in that period between the 26th and the 4th of December to ensure that we and the public can feel confident that those boxes will not be in any way tampered with? Why put that risk out there? I mean, it's an unnecessary risk. And then finally, which I have written a letter on, I kept hearing that you can't vote unless you have registered to 2 or 3 months before they call the date of the election. And everyone was giving me different answers. So Mohammed went to the mountain and I rang Bali's house. And won't call the name of the person, but he is a person who is in a position to have given me an answer. And what he said to me, he said to me, well, you can register in your constituency. I said, well, if your constituency doesn't have the application forms, you could go, it's all very airy-fairy. If it's not there, well, you can go to another area to get the forms. And then when you fill out the forms, it has to be sent up to Bali's house. And this is what troubles me. And he says, and then when it goes up to Bali's house, it will take us some time, because they have to go through all the forms and decide which ones. Yeah, this is what I was told. They have to go through all the forms and decide which ones of them qualified to be registered. All of this mystery, all of this lack of transparency. Now, they may have a structure and they may have factors that guide the process. Well, I don't know it. I don't know if they published it. But what makes me very concerned is that the person to whom I spoke was saying they would now, I think I was yesterday, was saying to me, well, anyhow, are we going to sort everything out with the North and the East with the meeting? We'll have a meeting. And then the next day we go in San Fernando. Elections is just around the corner. You mean you cannot, as a seasoned party around since 1950 something, you cannot get your act in order, and more importantly, make sure that you communicate the information in a timely manner and in a manner in which the public has access to that information. Can't you do that? All of these factors that I mentioned does not create a sense of ease and does not seem to be consistent, in my respectful view, with what the PNM stands for. And people can get angry with me, but if they saw it, if they were on the other side, they would understand that something is not right about that. Whatever explanation they give, it's all unnecessary risk that they're putting and opening themselves, unfortunately, to allegations of impropriety. And finally on that, you know, a lot of times people wait after the fact to complain and say, "Oh, the thing wasn't fair and it was there." I'm not doing that. I am taking it frontally. I am asking the questions, and if they choose not to answer the questions, that in itself, therein hangs a tale. That either they don't know the answers, they're still trying to figure out what the answers should be, or they think I'm bold-faced to ask those questions, all of which is unacceptable. All of which is unacceptable. And then, so that's the state of play as I understand it now.
But Karen, let me say to you, after tonight, they will answer the question. Trust me.
Good luck. I asked the Prime Minister to release his self-financial report so many times, or even release the little part, the part that would deal specifically with me. It's radio silence, you know. It doesn't. One way of dealing with something is not to deal with it, you know. That is dealing with something, you know.
You see, Karen, and that is what people see in you: transparency and accountability. All you are calling for is transparency in the PNM internal election. That's all.
That's all. Absolutely.
That's all. All you ain't telling them how to do their job, but you want transparency. For example, I don't think there's anywhere in the world where you have 3 days of voting.
And it's really, you have to say, and
9 days.
9 days, you know, because that break between the 27th and the 4th, when you add up all the days, because I think it's only on the 4th that they'll start counting. This is equivalent. You're not voting every day, but you're stretching out the voting period for, I mean, nothing like America. I mean, a relatively small community, and you're stretching it out like that. And you have boxes kept where, and who has access to the boxes? I mean, they're not even explaining that.
You don't know what could happen these days because